Hi there. I'm Andrew from Horsepower Inc. And today we're going to be installing one of our M8 V2 air cleaners on this 2019 Street Glide. So check it out. I'm glad you stopped by today. Been getting a lot of questions lately on the install. So hopefully we can clear up some of those questions for you. So when you get your V2 air cleaner, after you order it from us, you'll receive it like this. It'll be all put together. This one has our plain black outer cover. We have a few different accented ones that you can get. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna spin this off. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Now this particular bike already had an air cleaner assembly on it. We've taken it off because we are going to be installing a set of our M8 external breathers with it. So when you get the air cleaner, you have your choice. You can get the external as an add-on to the V2, or you can run the standard bolts and spacers that would normally come with it. And we'll show you how those fit up too. You also get an air cleaner backplate gasket. And then to do the install, since we've already had the air cleaner off, whatever you need to do to get your stock filter element off, or aftermarket piece, or whatever you need, you'll have those tools separately. We will not be using a support bracket. Our air cleaners do not need that. So the stock factory one that's on these, just take it off and discard it. But you will need a 9/16 socket, deep well, 7/32 Allen driver if you're going to be doing our external breather kit. You also need a 3/16 Allen and a 5/32 Allen, and then your choice of ratchet. So what we'll do first is get everything tore apart here. I'm going to remove the countersunk 5/32 bolts. I'm going to pull the filter, the face plate up off of it. And once you get to this point, you're going to see that you got the breather bolt covers. They just pop off. Now the velocity stacks in these are already in place, holding and retaining the mounting screws you need from the back plate to the face of the throttle body. To get this out, you twist it counterclockwise. You'll see the ear marks are exposed and you'll pull it out. These velocity stacks and back plates have magnets on both sides. So this has helped to retain it in place so it doesn't come out. And there's also an O-ring on this. This O-ring needs to stay in place. So you'll detach that. Go ahead and you can pull your hardware out of it. Now, when we assemble these before we send them to you, we will clean everything and wipe it down. We always recommend giving it a good thorough wipe down and cleaning before you install it. Also, we've had a few issues with customers trying to remove the bolts that are visible through the back. These stay in place. When we first build these and put the standoffs on them, we red Loctite these in place. These are not to be removed. I think a lot of that goes with the plain covers. If anybody gets one and sees the plain cover on it, they're wondering how to get that off. The cover actually spins off. We have a few guys trying to turn them around and pull the bolts out of the back of them, and in turn end up snapping them off. So these are already put in from the get-go. They stay in place. So once you're here, you got everything laid out, cleaned up, you go ahead and get your air cleaner backplate gasket. We're gonna line everything up. Get you some blue Loctite. We'll put a drop on all 3 fasteners. And if you're using the standard head breather bolts and stuff, you'll separate them. There'll be 4 O-rings that are sent with them. We've already got them in place on this spacer. and the breather bolt itself. So then you will go ahead and line everything up. I usually start the 3/16 Allen bolts first, just to hold it in place as an extra set of hands, and then leave them loose, and then take your breather bolt spacer and you will insert it behind it and start the head breather bolt into place. And then you're going to evenly tighten everything down, and you can just tighten these up to factory spec in the book. But since we are not going to be using these on this application, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull these out of the way. And we'll go ahead and set this off to the side for just a second. We're going to get our external breathers going. So when you get these in a package, you'll have all your hardware pieces together. You have our stainless steel inserts, which are going to go in place of the head breather bolts. You also got the spacers, the O-rings, and your button head 7/32 Allens. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our O-rings. Small ones, of course, are going to go in the recess portion on the flange, head side. We'll take just a little bit of oil, assembly lube, just put a little bit on it. We'll go ahead and put these into place. If you need to, you can use your socket that you're doing your install with just to help seat it into the groove. You're going to put red Loctite on these. I'll explain why here in just a second. We're going to go ahead and thread this into the head. We'll get our other one started real quick. Once you get those started, this is why you need the deep well socket, because machined on the edge of these is a 9/16 hex. So we want to snug those down pretty good. Now the reason we use red Loctite here, because everybody's like, well, if this is supposed to be serviceable and I need to take this on or off, this is because when you go to install the back plate and the spacers, these will slide on here. In between all this, to hold everything snug, is that 7/32 button head Allen. Once you have that in place, we will use blue on that. So if this ever has to come off, you're just overcoming the blue Loctite and not the red Loctite back here. If you use blue on both and you try to break that 7/32 button head loose, more than likely the insert will start to spin. And then when that spins, this will all come off as one piece, and then it's extremely hard to get everything separated. So you would have to put a set of vice grips or something on it to try to hold this, because this hex is now not exposed. So that's why we put red on the insert and blue on the button head. So now we'll take our spacers. There is a larger internal O-ring is what is sealing everything off. We'll just put a little bit of assembly lube on those. As well as our other O-rings. you go to assemble these, you'll see the small nipple is towards the motor, because as these head breathers breathe, it will come from the hole that's on the stainless insert, and then that will build up the release on that side of the O-ring towards the motor, and then it will vent down and out. Now there will be some tension on that O-ring because it is so much thicker. Just press it on into place, and you'll want to position the nipple facing down. Now we can get our back plate in place. Glue Loctite on all of our fasteners. Gasket in place. So we got everything started by hand. So now we'll grab our 7/32 Allens. Get those started into our external breather inserts. Snug everything down. Now we got everything slammed down in place. So what's also good about our V2 air cleaners is the fact that everything that goes into it is kind of an internal fail-safe, so that we don't run the risk of any hardware coming loose and backing out and then being sucked in through the intake tract. So our velocity stack, when it goes into place, is doing just that. So remember, we had to twist it to unlock it to get it out. We will also reinsert it and twist it back into place to engage the magnets to retain it. So O-ring's still in place. Velocity stack goes into its grooves here and here. And then we will rotate it clockwise. So now velocity stack is locked in, the magnets are helping to retain it, and the O-ring is also in place to keep some tension on it. And now, if any of these, for some reason, that would back out or come loose, cannot come all the way out and find their way into the intake tract. Now our covers will also go on with our filter. Your air filter is what is helping retain the cover plates. Your outer filter cover plate is also recessed on the back side to help locate it with the studs. Now we'll take our countersunk 5 30-second Allens and apply some blue Loctite. Make sure we got decent fitment between the plate and the filter. Everything's snug down to this point. And then now, if you have the plain cover, or if you've got one of our accessory decorative covers that you're wanting to run that has a center bolt, then you'd put the cover in place, center bolt in, good to go. In this case, with it being our plain style, we will use the set screw that's set into the back of it as the mounting point. There's a little bit of blue. Now we will place it into place. You'll feel the set screw engage in the front plate. Lightly turn it so you got thread engagement. Once it catches, we'll spin it on the rest of the way. The outer portion of the filter is slightly oversized compared to the front plate to allow it to engage with the cover. That is also what is helping keep tension on it and retain it. So we'll get it to where it's snug, give it just a little bit to hold it in place. You're good to go. So once you're at this point and you have the external breathers, we'll just take a little bit of assembly oil, we'll take the 2 supplied rubber hoses, insert them onto the nipples. Now, you can route these however you want. It doesn't have to be any particular way. Just as far as long as you're keeping it away from any moving components, anything hot that they can melt off of. But these silicone hoses will be fine up against the motor. So what we tend to do with them is we will route them between the cylinders. Out the other side. So once you're at this point, we take them, go behind the shift linkage, and route them down between the inner primary case and the engine case. And then we'll just make sure that we're not in contact of anything down here. It's not hanging too low. If they need trimmed, just snip off the excess and you're done. Then we'll just take a rag and we'll wipe our fingerprints off everything. At that point, you're good to go. And that's the install on the M8 V2 with external breathers.